So the point is, therefore, that you can do everything you have to do in this spirit. Don't make a distinction between work and play. Regard everything that you're doing as play, and don't imagine for 1 minute that you've got to be serious about it. We live in a world where almost everyone believes quite sincerely that something is wrong with them, that they ought to be more this or less that, smarter, kinder, more disciplined, more enlightened, less anxious, less angry, less human. And so they go chasing endlessly after some future version of themselves, always just around the bend, where they finally get it all right. But I'd like to suggest something a little scandalous, that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you, at all. Your very being, this moment, this breath, this strange and sacred sense of I am, is already perfect. Not perfect in the moral sense. Not tidy, polished, or well-behaved, but perfect the way a flame dances, or a tree bends in the wind, or a galaxy spins. You see, you're not something apart from nature, observing it from a distance. You are nature, just as much as the stars, the ocean, and the clouds. The patterns of your thoughts, your laughter, your sorrow, they are every bit as natural as the ripples in water or the sound of thunder. And you don't need to do a thing to earn your place here, because the truth is, you are all already an extraordinary phenomenon of the universe. You're just like that, and that is enough. One of the most extraordinary realizations, and it's not mystical or religious, but simply factual, is this. You didn't come into this world. You came out of it, just as an apple tree apples the universe peoples. And you are one of those people. You're not a stranger wandering through a foreign land. You are this place, its eyes, its thoughts, its wonderings about itself. Now, most of us were brought up to feel separate, as though we're tiny egos, trapped inside these bags of skin, looking out at a world that's over there, full of objects and others. But that's a trick of perception, an illusion of language and labeling. In reality, there's no line where you stop and the world begins. You are continuous with it, like a wave is with the ocean. Look at a flame. Does it have a boundary? A fixed shape? It's a process, a happening, a flow. So are you. You are not a static thing. You are a verb disguised as a noun. A whirl of consciousness, feelings, memories, all shimmering like light on water. When you were born, the universe didn't make a mistake. It wasn't trying to test you, fix you, or mold you into something better. It was expressing itself as you. And what a peculiar, delightful, and intricate expression you are. No one else has your exact rhythm, your exact voice, your particular pattern of laughter and silence. That isn't random. That's design in the deepest, most spontaneous sense. But here's where the confusion sets in. From a young age, we were taught to override that naturalness, to conform, to behave, to achieve, to become someone. And in doing so, we began to believe the greatest lie of all, that we are somehow not enough, that we must become rather than simply be. But tell me, have you ever seen a flower straining to bloom? Have you ever seen a tree hurrying to grow? They just do it. They unfold because they are that unfolding. You too are unfolding. You too are nature playing itself out. You are not a problem to be solved. You are not a project to be completed. You are an event of the cosmos, as marvelous as the stars, and just as inevitable. So look again, not with your eyes, but with your being, and perhaps, just perhaps, you'll start to recognize the miracle you've always been. Now, I know when someone says, There's nothing wrong with you. The conditioned mind resists. You might think, but what about my past, my failures, my guilt, my habits, my shame? And yet, all of that too is part of the play, part of the process. You see, from the very beginning, we're handed a story. That being alive is a test. That you're here to prove something to God, to society, to your parents, to yourself. And so we become actors in a theater of self-improvement, constantly fixing, adjusting, striving as if life were a ladder to climb rather than a mystery to dance. But what if that whole project was built on a false premise? The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple, and yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. So let's try this. Close your eyes for a moment and feel the sensation of being, the aliveness that is present before any opinion or judgment arises. That is you. Not the inner critic, not the timeline, not the to-do list, just the raw, open presence of being here. And what could possibly be wrong with that? Look at the clouds. They don't align themselves neatly into roads. They drift, they swirl, they form and dissolve. Is there anything wrong with them? No one scolds a wave for crashing too early, or a tree for growing crooked. They are not judged by some cosmic scoreboard. But we human beings somehow believe we are the exception, that we alone must justify our existence, that we must earn the right to be. And this is the root of our suffering, the original illusion. The truth is, your imperfections are not mistakes, they are textures, details, echoes of your particular music. You don't need to become worthy of life, you are life, expressing itself in human form. Just like fire flickers, just like water flows, even your attempt to become spiritual, even your desire to improve yourself, is already part of the perfection. It's like the ocean trying to become wet, or a sunbeam trying to shine. It's unnecessary. And yet even that is allowed. So instead of chasing some polished idea of who you ought to be, what if you simply noticed who you already are? Right now, without changing anything, without editing, without effort. There's nothing wrong with you. There never was. It's only the thought that says so, and you're not that thought. You are the silence behind it, the spaciousness that watches it come and go. And once you see this, not as a belief, but as a direct experience, something inside relaxes. And in that space, in that letting go, you begin to remember something ancient and true. You are nature wild, vast, unfinished, and beautiful. And you are just like that. You see, when I say you don't need to do anything, I don't mean you should sit still like a lump of stone. No. No. I mean something far subtler. I mean you don't need to strain to be what you already are. You don't push the river, you float with it. Because the river is doing the flowing, not you. And in the same way, life is living itself through you. Birds don't sing to impress. They sing because it is their nature. You don't have to force meaning or chase purpose. It emerges like a breeze, like a laugh, like a melody, when you stop trying to manufacture it. Effortless action, as the Taoists say. Wu Wei, not laziness, not apathy, but the art of moving with the current rather than against it. And when you discover that rhythm, the one where you are no longer doing life, but being it, then the dance begins. Now here's a peculiar little paradox. Most of us spend our lives trying to be ourselves. But the moment you try, the moment you reach for authenticity, like a product on a shelf you've already lost it. Because the self is not something you can grasp, it's something you relax into. Trying to be spontaneous is like trying to fall asleep on purpose. The very effort prevents the happening. We're so busy asking, am I doing it right? Am I healed yet? Am I authentic now? That we miss the very thing we're looking for. It's like chasing your own shadow around the room. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with the chase. It's adorable, in a way. The ego, trying to polish itself like a stone, endlessly sanding, refining, spiritualizing. But eventually, you begin to laugh, because you realize the one doing all the fixing is the very thing that doesn't need to exist. It's all a bit of cosmic theater. You don't need to become yourself. You already are, right here, in your quirks, your flaws, your silence, your breath. Authenticity isn't something you try to achieve, it's what's left when you stop pretending. And that is freedom. Now, if we really want to go a little deeper, we have to look at something very peculiar. You didn't invent the image you have of yourself. It was handed to you, constructed, layer by layer, built out of glances, comments, expectations, like a mirror made of other people's thoughts. From the moment you were old enough to speak, you were told who you are. What's acceptable, what's not, what earns love, and what doesn't. And so, without even realizing it, you began to shape yourself according to the reflections around you. You became a collection of borrowed ideas, a patchwork personality stitched together from parents, teachers, religions, and then one day, maybe in your 20s, maybe much later, you start to feel tired, not physically, but existentially. As though you've been wearing someone else's clothes for so long, you forgot how your own skin feels. That's the moment, that little flicker of rebellion, that sense that the person you've been performing as isn't the one who's actually alive in there. The most dangerous thing you can do is believe your own role. Because the role is fine, it's useful, even. But it's not you. You are what's playing the role. You are the actor, not the mask. But society teaches you to mistake the costume for the being. You become the good girl, the strong man, the productive adult, and forget that you're also a storm, a poem, a mystery. And so, when people say, be yourself, what they often mean is, be the version of yourself we like the most. But that's not freedom, that's still a performance. The real task is to see through the performance. Not to destroy it, you don't need to rebel with clenched fists, but to recognize that it's just a costume. And when you see it as such, you can finally take it off, or wear it playfully, like a child in a mask. Because the one underneath, that's the real you. The one who doesn't need to be impressive, who isn't worried about being liked, who doesn't have to be good, or enlightened, or enough. That one, the silent, observing, breathing aliveness behind all the stories, was never broken, and never needed fixing. It only needed remembering. So then, what's left? If you are not the voice in your head, not the roles you've been assigned, not the identity you've spent years defending, what remains? Silence. The space in which all thoughts arise and fade. The stillness behind the movement. You see, awakening is not a matter of adding anything. It's not about gathering spiritual merit badges or perfecting your personality. It's a matter of subtraction, of unlearning, like a muddy pond clearing when the stirring stops. You don't need to do anything for clarity, you simply allow the mud to settle. But most people are afraid of that silence, because in silence the ego cannot speak. And without noise, it begins to disappear. Yet that's where your real nature is hiding. Not in the struggle, but in the surrender. The self, the true self, isn't discovered by thinking more, but by thinking less, by looking inward not with judgment, but with wonder. And in that gentle noticing, you begin to feel it, a quiet hum behind your chest, a spaciousness where the need to become finally dissolves. And what's left is being pure, present, unconditional. It's like that. So then, how does one live like this, without all the grasping, the fixing, the polishing? Well, like the sky. The sky doesn't hold on to the clouds, doesn't chase the sun or argue with the storm. It just lets things pass through. And you, if you stop clinging so tightly to your story, can live like that too. No need to constantly edit yourself, no need to be better all the time. Because once you realize you are the sky and not the passing weather, everything becomes a little... You begin to trust life more. Not because you figured it all out, but because you no longer believe you need to. There's a rhythm to things, a timing that doesn't belong to the clock, but to the heart. And when you stop pushing so hard, you can actually hear it. And that's the irony, isn't it? When you stop trying so hard to live the right way, you begin living the real way. More wonder, less control, more play, less proving. Because trees don't strive to be trees, and waves don't try to crash correctly. They just are. And so are you. So let yourself be lived. Let life happen through you without interference. Because you are just like that, and that is more than enough. And so we return to the beginning, to that strange and wonderful statement, there is nothing wrong with you at all. Not as a comforting sentiment, but as a radical, liberating truth. You are not something broken that needs to be repaired. You are not some spiritual project waiting to be completed. You are in this very moment an unfolding mystery, a ripple in eternity, a brief song in the great silence. And if you can see yourself in the right way, not through the eyes of judgment or self-doubt, but as a phenomenon of nature like fire, or clouds, or galaxies, then you will see you were never separate. You were never too much. You were never not enough. You were just like that. Not perfect, but whole. Not flawless, but complete. And all that's left is to remember, to drop the pretense, to breathe in and simply be. Because once you stop chasing after some future version of yourself, you'll realize you've been home all along. Not in the world's idea of success, not in someone else's approval, but in your own quiet presence, in the simple sacred fact that you exist, and that is quite enough.